welcome to 30 Days of Hoya. Today we will take a look at Hoya wayetii or wayetii. You can see a bit more of the Hoya in the second frame. Hoya wayetii is native to Southeast Asia, to places like Philippines. Hoya wayetii would be in that intermediate temperature range from 15 to 35 degrees of Celsius, which is from 60 to 95 degrees of Fahrenheit. There are 3 plants here, and there's a bit of a story with them. The largest one that you can see here arrived a couple of days ago with Hoya lacunosa, and then there are 2 smaller ones. There is this small guy here, and that's the first wayetii that I got. It was about this size when I received it, maybe a bit smaller. There is a story why it's still the same size. And then there is another one here, and it has 4 or 5 leaves. I received this as a 1-note cutting as a gift, so that one also started to grow as well. Let's get to the first one that I have here. That is seemingly the same size. I received it in September last year. It was very easy to root in water. I didn't have any issues with that. I placed it in a mix of bark, cocoa peat, perlite, and all that stuff that I keep telling you in my videos about Hoya mixes. And it seemed to do really well for a month or 2. And then one day it occurred to me, maybe I should experiment with bottom watering. You shouldn't, at least not with Hoyas, or at least it didn't work for me. So I experimented with bottom watering, and a week after that, this little guy started to rot. So I took my scissors right away. I took a cutting. The base was gone, wasn't salvageable. I would say I took a 2-note cutting, and now there are about 4 notes. So it did continue to grow. I had to root it again. Up until recently, it was just alone in a pot. And I potted this one in just, I think, in leca. So it did receive a lot of air. And this one here was, I would say, only in bark, in very, very big chunks of bark, even for this small plant. And it did well. None of those 2 are very fast growers. So I would say that Hoya wayetii is very sensitive to overwatering. So I repotted all 3 of them into this orchid pot. I used bark, big chunks of bark. There are some smaller chunks, perlite and sphagnum moss. The reason why I used sphagnum moss is I saw that some growers do use it, and I saw that some people use it with this Hoya. I didn't put a lot of moss, just, I would say, a sprinkle of moss to have some moisture in there. Bark isn't really something that will hold on to moisture. Perlite, impossible, you know, it will not hold on to moisture. So I did want to have just something that will hold on to moisture, but I didn't want it to be cocoa peat. Sphagnum moss, if you don't compact it, is very airy actually. If you put only bark with perlite, that will dry out really fast and you will have to water all the time. I don't want to do that. I want a mix that is very airy, but I want a mix that will also hold on to some moisture a bit, so I don't have to water all the time. So I'm just trying to use moss. And this is a similar mix that I use for orchids, which are also epiphytic plants. And I use this for Phalaenopsis, which has very big, thick roots. And I use even more moss than here. And Phalaenopsis has a lot of storage options. It has thicker leaves, it has thick roots, so there is place to store water there. Hoyas generally have very, very thin roots. Some of them have thicker leaves, some of them don't. So I still didn't want to use too much moss. Maybe I could have gone with more moss, but to be on the safe side, I used a very little amount of moss. And I don't use the perlite in my Phalaenopsis mix, but I used it for Hoyas just in case. Sometimes I add perlite for I don't know what reason. The bark alone should be sufficient, really. But I added it anyways. I think it makes me calmer to see there is perlite there. I know it will be okay. This is not a mix that I can recommend to you, the moss and bark and perlite. I do see that some growers use it and it's working fine for them. It's working really well. When I test it out a bit more, I will get back to you. I do plan to move some Hoyas to this mix and to transparent pots. I couldn't find a transparent pot at the moment for this one, but maybe for some future Hoyas that I want to put in this mixture, I will get a transparent pot because I think it will help me just keep an eye on the situation inside the pot. Hoyawayetii is a Hoya that I think can take a lot of light. When you give it more light, the edges, the margins of the leaves will get this brownish line to them, brownish hue. The small one, when I received it, it was completely green, but now it developed margins under my LED lights. This one, I received it like this, so with this one, the margins were already this brownish or dark reddish color, maybe dark purple. And if you wanted to achieve this look of these margins, you will need to give it a lot of light. The small one was very close to my LED light. I would say it was 20 centimeters away from the LED light, and that's when it got the reddish margins or the brownish margins. I would put this even close to a west-facing window. There is a similar Hoya to this one, Hoya Kintiana, and I actually confused this one that I received as a one-note cutting and this one that I received from a different collector, because this one has very small leaves compared to this one, and this one also has big leaves. So this and this here, those are two plants, two cuttings. One is longer, obviously, but those came from a garden center, and this one, the smallest one, came like that from a collector. They were probably grown in different media, different conditions, but I was told that that all of these are actually wayetii. I was hoping I had a Kintiana on my hands, but no. I don't think this Hoya is difficult to find, especially now you see it's becoming more and more common. You just have to be a bit lucky, not too lucky I would say, and you are able to find this in a garden center. The only issue that I had with this one is the one bottom watering episode, so be very, very careful with when you water this one. I did notice, at least in my conditions, in my home, that it's extremely sensitive to over watering. But other than that, it's a lovely Hoya to have, especially because of these margins, really. This was Hoyawayetii. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again in our next 30 Days of Hoya.